What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing the entirety of The Flash Season 9. Now, guys, I'll be breaking this review up into four main categories, that being heroes, villains, the storylines, and the acting and writing. So let's start off with the heroes slash characters that aren't villains that appeared in the season. We're just going to be going over each character. First of all, Barry, obviously amazing character. He's always amazing. Iris, I don't think she's a bad character at all. I know a lot of you guys might think she's a bad character. The only season I think she's really bad in is season 4. Otherwise, I actually really do like Iris. Caitlin, who appeared in half an episode, which is stupid. She should have appeared the whole season, but she didn't because of that terrible Keone character. Keone is just straight up terrible. Keone should not have been a character. Every time she opened her mouth, I wanted to mute the TV. So yeah, Keone's a really bad character. Chester, Allegra, and Cecile, obviously the trio of terribleness. Chester is actually not a terrible character, but it's just when he's around Allegra and other supporting characters like Cecile, he just becomes an awful character. Allegra is just straight up awful. There's not much else that needs to be said about that. Same with Cecile. She's just terrible. A character that was not a series regular, or a season regular rather, but still did appear in the season, is Joe. I didn't like his storyline at all in season 9, with him just moving away for no reason. But I did, obviously he's still a good character. He'll always be a good character, even if they don't really know what to do with his character. Mark, he's not like as bad as Chester, Allegra, and Cecile, but he just doesn't, there's no reason he should still be on the show. And then of course you had in the Red Death storyline, you had the rogues being Hartley, the Hotness, Goldface. Those just the most random rogues to team up with Barry. I'm not sure why they chose them, or even why they're in the season. They could have used like some other heroes that Barry's teamed up with in the past, like maybe some characters from Legends of Tomorrow. I think would have been way cooler than those rogues returning. But yeah, nonetheless, the rogues, I guess, weren't awful. But also another character we saw return in the Red Death storyline was Grodd. He was actually pretty cool to see. I did like his storyline. Another character that returned was Batwoman. Now, the reason that it's so aggravating that she returns is because there's no reason to why she was there. She was literally said to be missing, like an episode before that, and then she just appears out of nowhere, and there's no reason, or there's no, like, explanation as to where she was or anything like that, so that was really aggravating. We had Hazard return in Season 9, Episode 6, maybe the worst episode of the show in its entirety. I honestly couldn't tell you why they chose Hazard to return, the most random character on The Flash, and they dedicated a whole episode to her, which is ridiculous, first of all. Now, of course, we had Officer Korber appear in this season. Now, when she's appearing in present day, I don't really mind her. She's kind of a weird character that I don't really care about. But then they had her in as in the Cobalt Blue storyline. She was the captain of CCPD, which literally contradicts the whole show because they had someone else as captain in 2049 when we were getting the Nora West Allen backstory. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I really don't think she should have been captain. That's kind of stupid. But anyway, some other characters we had Dreamer return for no reason. They dedicated a whole episode to her. It's like it wasn't even an episode of The Flash. She should not have been in the season. They should have brought back Supergirl instead of Dreamer. I think that would have been way better because Dreamer's not even that good of a character. They really didn't need to bring her back at all. Nobody really cares about her. Captain Singh and Kramer, of course, were both in the season. I don't really have a problem with either of them. They're fine characters. Oliver Queen, of course, returned. He was absolutely amazing. Same with Diggle, Kid Flash. All of them returning in episode 9 was just so great to see. Jay and Joan Garrick, they're always pretty good characters. Nothing too bad about them. Nora West Allen, she had a very interesting storyline this season with her being taken over by the Negative Speed Force. Her somehow just defeating Savitar is kind of ridiculous. I didn't really enjoy that, but I guess it is saying that she got a lot faster, which I guess is kind of interesting. I've never really hated the Nora character. She can be annoying at times, but, I don't exactly hate her. Then we have Henry and Nora Allen that returned when Barry went back to that night. Now, the one thing I don't exactly like about Henry and Nora Allen's return in episode 10 is how quickly they grew to like treat Barry like he was their like their son, which obviously he is, but they didn't know that and they just treated him like that really, really quick, which is, kind of weird. But I do like that in this. I did really enjoy that in the episode because it allowed for a lot more emotions to flow out there. So I thought that was really good, even if it didn't make a whole lot of sense. We had Speed Force Nora return for thankfully like only 10 minutes of the entire season, which, I don't mind because I think Eric Wallace kind of realized that the fans despised Speed Force Nora. So I feel like he just didn't really have her appear as much. Timeless Wells returned, which is really good. I liked his small, like, little action of telling Keone to stop taking over Caitlyn's body. I did like that. He's also obviously played by Tom Cavanaugh. I thought he was really cool. We also had toward the end of the season, end of the series, we had some new speedsters introduced, that being Avery Ho, Max Mercury, and Jess Chambers, who all seem to be pretty cool. Obviously, they are all comic book speedsters. So if we got a season 10, we would obviously have seen more with them. So that would have been pretty cool. So yeah, that's basically it for the heroes / people that aren't villains. And yeah, I think for the most part, they're all really bad. I mean, not really bad, but yes, a lot of them are bad. A lot of them are average. There's a very few that are good. The only good ones are really Barry, Oliver Queen, Diggle, Kid Flash, and that might be about it, to be honest. But yeah, another character that needed to return that didn't was Cisco. I mean, obviously the actor might have been busy, but still, I think they should have at least mentioned his name. It's kind of ridiculous that they didn't do any of that. But yeah, for the most part, the heroes / non-villains of the season were average to bad. So now let's go over the villains. To start off the season, we had the Red Death storyline, and Red Death was awful, especially without her mask on. She was so bad. Javicia Leslie has no place in playing a villain. It was just awful when she didn't have her mask on. With the mask on, she's not as bad, I guess. It's just the writing really holds the character back, and it's just not that threatening. And yeah, Red Death was overall just a huge disappointment and not a good villain whatsoever. Captain Boomerang he was actually a pretty cool villain. I did like Captain Boomerang in this season. Well, the new version of Captain Boomerang, rather. I thought he was pretty cool. The Fiddler is a really dumb character. They already have a Fiddler on the show, and she was a hero. This Fiddler is just like super boring and not that good at all. Rainbow Raider returned from season 1, which it was cool to see a season 1 villain return, but why is it Rainbow Raider? I don't really know what the significance for that is. Murmur is kind of a weird villain. I don't really know what to say about Murmur. This guy in season 9 episode 6, I'm just gonna ignore that. Then we had Lady Kronos in season 9 episode 8. It's a completely unnecessary villain. That episode should not have happened, even if it was kind of funny at times. But yeah, that episode was just another awful episode and should not have happened. They should have had that dedicated to more Cobalt Blue stuff, or more stuff that actually relates to the Flash. But then the next episode was a huge refresher with Bloodwork returning. He was an absolutely amazing villain as always in this episode. We had the Negative Speed Force, which took over Joe Chillblaine XS, which I guess I don't know if you call that a good villain or a bad villain, because there was no real avatar of the Negative Speed Force just yet. But yeah, I mean, the Negative Speed Force, I guess you could count that as a villain for the season. And then, of course, you had a Reverse Flash, that, of course, being Matt Letcher's version that went back in time with Barry to that night. He was amazing. 10 out of 10 in that episode. Absolutely loved him there. You had Tom Cavanaugh's Reverse Flash in the finale. He just got destroyed by Allegra, which is really aggravating and should not have happened whatsoever. His character was a bit disappointing in the finale. Another few disappointing characters, that of course being Zoom, got defeated by Keone, which is stupid. He was just not the same. Not even close to the same as he was in season 2. That really disappointed me right there. Of course, Savitar was the one that I guess was the most bearable of the returning villains. I did actually like his writing in the finale, but then he just got defeated by XS with a snap of a finger, which is kind of ridiculous, and that should not have happened at all. Godspeed returned, and his writing was just terribly cringe. He got defeated by Cecile, which is just, how do you get defeated by Cecile? And then, of course, lastly, the main villain of all that stuff, that being Cobalt Blue, and he wasn't exactly that bad. He was just really disappointing. Eddie Thawne, it was great to see him back, but they definitely could have done him in a much better way, and he just wasn't as threatening. So yeah, Cobalt Blue, while he wasn't awful, just wasn't even close to good. So yeah, those villains were pretty disappointing. And yeah, for the most part, the villains of the season were pretty bad. There's like 2 good villains out of like 15. But yeah, the characters on the show this season were overall not very good. So yeah, now let's go over the storylines of this season. So guys, I'm going to consider there to be 5 main storylines in the season. The first one, of course, being the Red Death storyline, which I think, the Red Death character was just absolutely horrendous. The storyline in and of itself wasn't awful, but it certainly wasn't very good. The rogues were just average at best. There's like one good rogue, and that's Captain Boomerang. The other ones are just they're just so random, and it just made me kind of confused about the whole storyline. So yeah, the Red Death storyline just wasn't that good. Then after that, you had some filler episodes. Wow, those are just awful. They are so bad. You had the one where Becky Sharp is the main focus. Then the next one, Dreamer's the main focus. Then the next one, you had like some weird time thing where there's this random villain that has no contribution to the season. The filler episodes were just awful, and I would rather have there be less episodes in the season than have those episodes in the season. So yeah, those are just literally 0 out of 10. I absolutely despise those episodes. But then in episode 9, I'm going to consider that episode in and of itself to be a storyline, and I'm going to call it Mini Crisis, because it kind of was a mini Crisis on Infinite Earths if you think about it. You had Bloodwork basically infecting the entire multiverse with his lifeblood, which I thought was so cool. You had Oliver Queen and John Diggle return. It was kind of like another little crossover. Kid Flash was there as well. That episode was absolutely amazing, and in my personal opinion, the best episode of the season, but not my favorite episode of the season, which is the very next episode when the Flash goes back to that night with the Reverse Flash. I consider that to be the 4th storyline of the season. The reason it's not the best episode, in my opinion, is just because of there's a bunch of like Allegra, Chester, Cecile, and Keone stuff to start off the episode for like the first 4 minutes, which is just a waste. But yeah, that storyline I thought was absolutely amazing, and it's definitely my favorite episode of the season. And then, of course, the last storyline being the Cobalt Blue storyline, which, I guess it was cool. It was really cool to see Eddie Thawne come back, but he just wasn't the same as season 1. They could have done so much better with him if there was different writing, different showrunner, of course. And yeah, the Cobalt Blue stuff was just really mid. The finale of the Cobalt Blue and the series as a whole was awful. I'm going to be honest. It was just straight up terrible. So yeah, the Cobalt Blue stuff was just mid at best. So yeah, out of these 5 storylines, only 2 of them I would consider to be good, and those 2 storylines only lasted 2 episodes. So now the last category is the acting and the writing for the season, and as for the main cast, the acting by Grant Gustin and Candice Patton was anywhere from average to good, while the rest of the cast acting was just awful. Cecile, Chester, and Allegra to be specific, and obviously Mark. I think his might have actually been the worst. But of course, returning fan favorite characters like Oliver, Bloodwork, and Matt Letcher's Eobard Thawne were all fantastic, and that was the case for most of the fan favorites who returned. But yeah, now let's move on to the writing, and oh my goodness, the writing in this season might be as terrible as it's ever been. It was just awful the whole season, besides season 9 episode 10, where it's actually pretty good, and season 9 episode 9, where it's absolutely perfect in my opinion. The reason that that one is perfect is because it wasn't written by Eric Wallace. Oh, what a surprise. And yeah, I thought it was absolutely perfect, and season 9 episode 10 somehow was written by Eric Wallace, but still wasn't that bad. But yeah, overall, this season was pretty bad. I think my final rating for the season would be a 3.5 out of 10. It gets points, obviously, because of season 9, episode 10 and season 9, episode 9, and the returning characters, and some things in each storyline that I did think were pretty good. You know what? Maybe I'll round it up to a 4 out of 10. But yeah, this season overall, it was really bad. But anyways, I'd say that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this video down below, as well as your own opinions on The Flash Season 9. Did you guys think it was actually pretty good? Did you think it was, bad like I do? Just comment all that stuff down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.